Hello, teachers. Welcome to Mini Lesson 101. And this video is just going to be about how to plan for your mini lesson in 10 minutes or less, third grade and under. And I would say if you're fourth and fifth grade and up, I would look at your mini lesson taking you about 15 minutes to be able to plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to my document camera so we can get right into this really quick teaching. This is going to be all about the mini lesson, the components of the mini lesson, and how to shorten planning for those components. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is the connection. And so the purpose of the connection is to rally the students, get them ready and excited about the work that they're going to be doing in reading workshop and in reading workshop. So you really want to grab their attention. Something that I do personally is I connect during the connection, I connect it to their previous learning, and I try to spend about 30 seconds to 2 minutes tops on the connection part. The way that I connect to the previous learning typically is by telling students, I use these phrases like, remember when we were doing this in narrative writing, now we're going to be generating ideas in opinion writing. Or remember when we were tracking how a character changed throughout a story in reading, a realistic fiction, we're also going to do that in historical fiction. So that's kind of how that could look. Another thing I would say is I've been noticing, that might be something that I would bring out. I've been noticing in your writing that you guys are doing this, and I think you're ready for the big work of whatever it is I'm going to be teaching about. And then I use this a lot. So if you've seen me teach lately, you'll know that I use this a lot. Like, we've been studying all about being a reader or all about being a writer. Some things that we've learned are this, this, and this. And then I end that with the teaching point. And I say that exactly as it's written in the unit of study. And the purpose of the teaching point is it's like a clear statement that gives the students the purpose of what the mini lesson is. So when you look at your unit of study and you look at that connection, and it sometimes can be an entire page or so, I don't even look at that anymore. The only thing that I look at is the teaching point, and then I use these phrases to connect students to what they've been doing and then say the teaching point. Right after that, then I jump into the teach. So some tips for you to know about the teach is the purpose of the teach is to model for the students how to do this work quickly, like 4 to 6 minutes, top 6 minutes. So some things that I do is I prep ahead of time the materials that I'm going to be using with the students. So I'm going to pull in front of you and show you this research-based argument essay. I think this is 5th grade. Yeah. So when you look in my unit, when I'm teaching, I already have the Post-its in here ready to go so that I can go and do that immediately in front of the students. I even have most of my writing done when I'm doing a writing piece, and then I have that posted so I'm not spending a lot of time writing in front of the students. So if we want to talk more about that, that's something that I find that's super helpful. I'm going to bust this out in a little bit again for you guys. So I always use the same materials as the students are using. So what we know is if you want higher rates of transference and students doing what you're teaching them, you need to use the same tools as they are. So I have my reader's notebook and I have my writer's notebook, and I'm using those things to model for the students. And then the purpose of this is you kind of have a huddle together and you want to be engaging students and building energy for what they might be doing as a reader or a writer. And so your teach in your units of study are typically demonstrations step by step. That's like 80–90% of the lessons. Occasionally, you might have a guided practice where you're walking them through the process, or an inquiry where you're asking students to figure out the answer, or exploration with example, like a lecture with illustrations. That's very minimal. Most of the time, you're going to be doing demonstrations step by step. Then we go into the active engagement. And the purpose of the active engagement is for the students to approximate what you've been teaching them. So like, try it out. It's going to be really messy and awkward at first, and that's okay, because anytime we learn something new, it's messy and awkward, right? Like, until it becomes habit and until we've really learned it. So honor that and be super excited when you see kids like trying some of that stuff out. The purpose of the active engagement is for them to transfer what you've just shown them how to do into like their work, or with their writing piece, or with their partner, or in their reading. That's the purpose of that. And so phrases that I use in active engagement are like, now it's your turn. And so then as the students are talking, I'm listening in to them as they're chatting with their partner. And I will voice over like, I noticed that so and so said, or I think this group over here said, or I heard somewhere someone say this. And I try to point out things that I really want to hear and see the students doing when I'm noticing those things. And so sometimes I don't notice it and I just sort of make it up and say it. And the littles are really great at like taking total credit for saying that, whether they did or not. They'll like, it was me, it was our group. I know we said it. It's really cute. So then the final part of your mini lesson is the link. And the link is, well, your active engagement's about 4 minutes. Your link should be 30 seconds to 1 minute. And it's really like the final send off from the mini lesson. And in this time, you just restate the teaching point. At least that's what I do. I just say today and every day, you can be the kind of writers who, oh, here we go. I'll just put that on there for you. Or readers who, and then I just totally restate the teaching point. The link is not assignment driven. So sometimes students are ready to do that work in their writing or their reading, and sometimes they're not. And you're going to need to revisit that in small groups and in conferences when you're meeting with kids at a later time, because this right now at the time, what you're teaching them, they may not be in that part of the writing process, or they may not be using books. They may not be reading books that they can apply what you've just taught them, or they may not be at that level yet. So know that it is invitational, okay? It's not assignment driven. You're sending them off. You just gave them another tool in their toolkit of something that they can be working on. Some phrases that I use are today and every day. You'll be the kind of writer or reader. Anytime you want to blank, you can blank what I just taught them, and then just send them with off you go. So the thing that I say verbatim is the teaching points, and then I practice the teach so that I understand it. And really the rest of it, guys, I don't read all of those parts because you don't have a lot of time to be able to do that. I want to share with you why I don't want you spending hours planning for a mini lesson. When you think about your workshop and the workshop model, we're going to pretend that your workshop model is 1 hour long and this circle is representing the workshop, okay? You have a mini lesson right here, and it's 10 minutes, right? And then you have a share here, and it can be a teaching share, and the longest that is 5 minutes. And then you might have a mid-workshop teaching point, 2 minutes. And so that's 17 minutes. And out of an hour or 45 minutes, depending what it is, the rest of this time is independence. Time for the students, but it's responsive teaching time for the teacher. This is where you're doing small groups, you're doing conferences, you might be meeting with partnerships, okay? Friends, this is where you're going to make the most growth with your students, right here, where you're meeting them where they are. So if you're going to spend an hour planning for something, this is what you'd want to be planning for. You don't want to spend longer than you're going to talk. The more time you spend on your mini lesson, the longer you're going to be talking for your mini lesson. Finally, I want to share with you just really briefly how I turn my unit, how I plan in my unit of study. And I use, it's the 4 post-it method, but I'm going to be honest, when you look at it, you'll see I have a few more post-its, but it'll make sense in just a second. It's where each post-it is for a component. So the connection with the teaching point, I always have to write the teaching point on a separate one. So I usually have 5. And then the teaching, and then the active engagement and the link. Okay. The only thing that you have to have, well, I'll tell you, you might want to start with some bigger post-its, not this big, but maybe this size here. There's lots of different size post-its you can see. These are the 3x3, these are 2x2. This is, I don't know what, but that's the big ones. And then the only thing you have to write out and say verbatim is that teaching point, right? So I'm going to pull out my research-based argument essay book, and you can see I've unpacked this book. So my book looks like it's ready for me to go teach. I have an example here. Sorry, I do this on the front of every bend, so I know. So here is what my book looks like. Here's my connection. And it's just like, this is lesson 1. So we just got a note from the principal. I'm going to read the note. I'm going to point out a couple of things. And then I'm going to my teaching point. Boom. And I have the note in an envelope so I can share that. And then this is how I'm going to teach it. I'm going to talk about what we're for chocolate milk and against chocolate milk after I read Nutrition in Disguise. And I have those post-its already made up so I can put them on the T-chart. And then I quickly debrief with the students. Did you see what I just did? Did you see how I just read that? And then I found some things for and against chocolate milk, and I put them on this T-chart. And then, looky here, see this language? Now you try. I'm going to give you your own article to read, and I want you to try what I just did. And the students would do the same thing. And then the link is today and every day we can be the kind of writers who, and then I just go back to my teaching point. Off you go. And that's all I say and do when I'm teaching. And I have my book with me, and I hold on to it, and less than 10 minutes. So today and every day, you can be the kind of teachers who plan a mini lesson in 15 minutes if you're upper grades, or 10 minutes or less. So off you go.